In the winter of 1983, the Coast Guard finally decommissioned the Prescott Lighthouse on the rocky Maine coast. What they found inside would remain classified in their incident reports for nearly 2 decades. The lighthouse had been automated in 1972, but local fishermen reported seeing a light in the keeper's quarters throughout the 1970s. Impossible, since the building had been stripped of all furniture and the electricity disconnected. When maintenance crews investigated in 1981, they found the door to the keeper's quarters locked from the inside. Thomas Hendricks was the last human lighthouse keeper at Prescott, serving from 1967 until automation. According to his daughter, Margaret Chen, her father never spoke about his final year at the lighthouse. He came home in 1972 a different man, she told researchers in 2003. He wouldn't go near the ocean, wouldn't even eat fish, and he kept all the curtains drawn, even during the day. What the Coast Guard discovered in 1983 began with the logbook. Every lighthouse keeper was required to maintain a daily log: weather conditions, ships spotted, maintenance performed. Hendricks's logbook was meticulous until August 15, 1971. After that date, the entries became strange. August 16, 1971. Fog persists. The child was at the window again last night. 3rd night in a row. She doesn't blink. August 19, 1971. Requested relief. Radio not working. The child is now appearing during the day. She points toward the rocks. I will not look. August 23, 1971. 6 days since I've slept. The child stands in the corner of my room. When I close my eyes, I can hear her breathing. Something is wrong with the breathing. It sounds like water. The entries continued for months, becoming increasingly illegible. Hendricks wrote about the child appearing in mirrors, in the reflection of his coffee, in the lens of the lighthouse lamp itself. He wrote about hearing her footsteps on the iron stairs, small, wet footsteps that left no prints. November 2nd, 1971. I know who she is now. Found the news clipping in the archives. Melody Carver, age 7, drowned June 1889. Father was keeper here. They say he walked into the sea 3 days after they found her body in the rocks. But that's not the whole story. I found his logbook too, hidden in the wall. He saw her before she drowned. For weeks, she was warning him. November 3rd, 1971. She's not alone anymore. The final entry, dated January 10th, 1972, consisted of a single sentence repeated 127 times, filling 17 pages. They are all still here, and they are all still drowning. When investigators examined the lighthouse in 1983, they found something that had been missed in previous inspections. In the keeper's quarters, behind a section of wall panel, was a small space. Inside were dozens of items: children's shoes from different eras, a rusted pocket watch, a woman's hair comb, fragments of clothing. Each item was tagged with a date and coordinates, shipwreck locations spanning from 1847 to 1968. More disturbing was what they found in the lighthouse lamp room. Scratched into the glass of the Fresnel lens, barely visible unless the light hit it at a specific angle, were hundreds of names. They matched the names of drowning victims from every shipwreck within 20 miles of Prescott Point over 120 years. The Coast Guard brought in Dr. James Whitmore, a psychologist, to review Hendricks's mental state through the logbook. Whitmore noted that while the entries suggested a psychotic break, certain details were troubling. Hendricks describes the child wearing a specific dress, blue with white flowers and a torn left sleeve, Whitmore wrote in his report. The newspaper account of 1889 matches this description of what Melody Carver was wearing when found, down to the torn sleeve. The newspaper was in the town archives, yes, but Hendricks couldn't have accessed them. The lighthouse had no boat, and he didn't leave the island during this period.
Margaret Chen provided the final piece of the puzzle in her 2003 interview. "A few months before my father died in 1997, he started talking," she said. "He told me that on his last night at the lighthouse, every light in the building turned on, even though there was no electricity. He said he saw them in every window, every doorway, dozens of them, all children, all dripping seawater, and they were all pointing at him. He said the little girl in the blue dress walked up to him and put her wet hand on his arm. Her hand was so cold it burned. She whispered one sentence, 'You have to warn them.' Then she pointed at the sea. My father looked where she pointed and saw something in the water, something huge, dark, moving between the rocks. It had too many arms, each one holding something that looked like a person. He ran, left everything, never went back." The lighthouse was demolished in 2004 after 3 separate incidents where teenagers exploring the abandoned structure reported seeing lights and hearing children's voices. During demolition, workers found one more thing. Carved into the foundation stone, barely legible after 100 years of weathering, was a message in an old dialect of Abenaki. Translated, it read, "Do not build here. The drowned ones gather. The thing below feeds." Local fishing boats still avoid the waters around Prescott Point. Charts mark it as hazardous due to rocks and currents, but the fishermen know better. On foggy nights, they say, you can still see a light where the lighthouse used to stand. And if you're unlucky enough to get too close, you might see them in the windows, rows of small, pale faces, all pointing toward the water, all warning you about what's underneath. Thomas Hendricks died of a heart attack in his sleep in 1997. According to the paramedics, his windows were open despite it being winter. His room was soaking wet, though there had been no rain, and his body was covered in small, child-sized handprints that glimmered with seawater in the morning light. The coroner filed the report. Nobody asked questions. Some things, they decided, were better left unexamined.
The Grandview Hotel in downtown Seattle was a monument to 1920s opulence, all Art Deco fixtures and marble floors. When it was finally sold to developers in 2019, the demolition crew made a discovery that wasn't in any of the building's blueprints, a room that shouldn't exist. The hotel had operated for 93 years. Thousands of guests had stayed there. Hundreds of employees had worked there. None of them knew about room 1313. Derek Torres was the site foreman when they found it. "We were gutting the 13th floor," he told investigators. "Standard demo work. But when we took down the wall between rooms 1312 and 1314, we found another wall behind it, newer construction. Someone had built over a doorway. Behind the false wall was a door, heavy oak, original to the building. The lock was engaged from the outside. The key was still in it. What they found inside would close the demolition site for 6 weeks. The hotel was untouched since sometime in the 1920s. Velvet wallpaper, now faded to a sickly mauve, covered the walls. A 4-poster bed dominated the space, its sheets still made up. An antique telephone sat on the nightstand, and covering every surface, the dresser, the desk, the bed, the floor, were letters. Thousands of letters, all unsent, all addressed to the same person, Margaret Harlow, 1822 Pine Street, Seattle, Washington. Detective Sarah Kim was brought in when the contents of the letters raised concerns. "Initially, we thought it might be a crime scene," Kim said in her official statement. "The letters were disturbing. They read like love letters at first, then they became obsessive, then threatening, then they stopped making sense entirely." The letters were all signed by someone named William Thorne. Hotel records showed a William Thorne had checked into room 1313 on November 3, 1926. He'd paid for a month in advance. There was no checkout date. The letters began normally enough. Dearest Margaret, I saw you today at Pike Place Market. You were buying roses. You didn't see me, but I'm always watching over you, making sure you're safe. But they quickly descended. Margaret, why won't you answer? I've sent 47 letters. The post office man says you've moved, but I know better. You're hiding from me. That's all right. I understand. I'll wait. I don't sleep anymore, Margaret. When I close my eyes, I see you with him, the man from the photograph. Who is he? Answer me. The final dated letter, from November 28, 1926, was barely legible. I understand now. You're not ignoring me. You can't answer, because you're not real. You never were. I created you. Every detail, your smile, your voice, the way you touch your hair when you're nervous. I made you in my mind, and then I saw you everywhere. But you're not real. None of this is real. The hotel manager says there's no Pine Street address. He says he's going to call the police. He doesn't understand. How can they arrest me for loving someone who doesn't exist? The letters after that had no dates. They filled the room, stacked in obsessive piles, written on hotel stationery, on napkins, on the wallpaper itself. Thorne had written the same message over and over. She's in the walls. She's always been in the walls. She whispers at night. She tells me things. She's real after all. She's very real, and she's very angry. Detective Kim's investigation revealed that William Thorne had been a real person, a traveling salesman from Boston who checked into the Grandview in November 1926. According to his family's missing person report, he'd stopped responding to telegrams after 2 weeks. The hotel claimed he'd checked out, but his family never heard from him again. Margaret Harlow was also real. She had lived at 1822 Pine Street in 1926. She'd been a schoolteacher, 23 years old, engaged to be married. She'd reported a stalker to police in October 1926, a man who followed her, sent her letters, appeared wherever she went. She disappeared on November 29, 1926. Her body was found in the basement of the Grandview Hotel on December 4, 1926. She'd been dead approximately 5 days. The case was never solved. The hotel's owner in 1926, Richard Grandview, had ordered room 1313 sealed immediately after Thorne's disappearance. The staff was told the room had structural issues. A false wall was erected, and the room was erased from the hotel's floor plans. Grandview died in 1931. The secret died with him. Until 2019. But here's where the story takes its darkest turn. When the demolition crew first entered the room, Derek Torres's assistant, Marcus Webb, took photographs for the work log. The first photograph shows the room as they found it, letters everywhere, bed made, telephone on the nightstand. The second photograph, taken 90 seconds later from a slightly different angle, shows something else. There's a figure on the bed. Indistinct, like a double exposure, but clearly visible. A woman in 1920s clothing, lying on the made bed, arms crossed over her chest. Her eyes are open. She's staring directly at the camera. Marcus didn't see anything when he took the photo. None of the crew did. But every photograph taken in that room afterward showed her. Sometimes on the bed, sometimes standing by the window, sometimes at the desk as if writing. In one photograph, taken by the police investigator, she's standing directly behind Derek Torres. Her hand is raised, fingers extended towards his neck. Derek reported feeling violently ill the moment he entered the room, like someone was pressing on his chest. He couldn't breathe right, and he kept smelling roses, dead roses. The crew refused to continue after 3 workers reported the same experience. A woman's voice whispering their names, the smell of decaying flowers, and an overwhelming feeling of being watched. A psychic medium was brought in off the record by one of the investors. Maria Soto spent 20 minutes in the room before refusing to go back. There are 2 of them. The woman is trapped.
She's been trapped since 1926, but he's there too, the man, and he won't let her leave. He's convinced they're supposed to be together. He's been whispering to her for 93 years. She's so tired. She's so angry. 3 days after Soto's visit, Marcus Webb was found unconscious in his apartment. He'd written on his bathroom mirror in soap, "Get out, get out, get out." When he woke up in the hospital, he said he dreamed of the room. In the dream, the woman on the bed sat up and spoke. She said, "He's still here. He won't stop writing. Make him stop writing." The demolition was completed in June 2019. The Grandview Hotel is now a luxury apartment complex. Room 1313 space was divided between 2 modern units, 13B and 14B. Neither unit has been occupied for more than 3 months. Tenants report the same complaints: the smell of roses, the sound of someone writing with a pen in the middle of the night, and voices, a man's voice desperate and pleading, and a woman's voice screaming. The building management has stopped leasing those units. If you look at the city records, you'll find something interesting. In March 2020, someone filed a complaint with the city about mail being delivered to an address that doesn't exist, 1822 Pine Street, apartment 1313. The post office worker reported that letters kept appearing in the sorting facility, dozens of them, all addressed to Margaret Harlow, all unsent, all blank inside. When they tried to trace where the letters came from, they found nothing. They still appear every few months. The post office burns them now. Nobody wants to know what happens if Margaret finally gets a letter back.
On August 14, 2008, the Federal Communications Commission received a complaint about an unauthorized radio broadcast in Millbrook, Illinois, population 847. What began as a routine investigation into signal interference became one of the most disturbing unsolved cases in the FCC's files. The broadcast was first reported by David Marsh, a long-haul trucker whose CB radio picked up the signal while passing through Millbrook at 2:47 a.m. It was a woman's voice, Marsh told FCC investigators. She was reading numbers, just numbers, but she sounded terrified, like someone was standing behind her with a gun. FCC agent Robert Chen was assigned to locate the source. Number stations aren't uncommon, Chen explained in his report. During the Cold War, they were everywhere, shortwave broadcasts of coded numbers, probably for spies. Most are defunct now, but this was different. This was broadcasting on CB frequency, which meant it was local, and it was recent. The broadcast appeared every night at exactly 2:47 a.m. on Channel 19. It lasted 17 minutes, always the same woman's voice, always numbers in groups of 5, always the same desperate tone, as if she was racing against time. Chen's audio recorder captured what happened next. You can hear him breathing, hear the equipment humming. Then the broadcast starts. The woman's voice, clear as day, coming from the booth speakers. 74329 88156 22904. Chen approaches the microphone. "Hello? Who's there?" The voice stops mid-number. 5 seconds of silence. Then, "Help me, please. He's coming back. He always comes back." The police reported that Chen went white. "What do you mean?" he asked. "Who's coming back?" "The man from the station. He locked me in. 1987. I've been reading his numbers. If I stop, he hurts me. Please, you have to help me." The voice cut to static. The equipment went dark. When Chen turned on his flashlight, they found something they'd missed in their initial sweep. Behind the broadcast booth was a door marked Archives.
It had been painted over, sealed, almost invisible against the wall. They had to bring in tools to open it. Inside was a small room, no windows, soundproofed, a desk, a chair, a microphone, and on the walls, written in what later tested as human blood, were numbers, thousands of numbers covering every surface, crammed together in desperate handwriting. On the desk was a driver's license for Jennifer Hollis, age 22, issued 1986. A missing person report from March 1987 matched her description. She'd been a broadcast student at the local community college, last seen leaving KMLB, where she'd been an intern. But that wasn't the worst of it. In the corner of the room, they found a sleeping bag, empty water bottles, and a journal. The journal was filled with entries dated from March 1987 to December 2007, 20 years of entries. March 15, 1987. He locked me in, said I have to broadcast the numbers or he'll kill my family. I don't understand. Why is he doing this? March 29, 1987. I tried screaming during the broadcast. He came in and broke my fingers, said the numbers have to be clear, have to be perfect. April 2nd, 1987. I can hear him outside the door, breathing, always breathing. The entries continued for years, Jennifer describing her captivity, her broadcasts, her desperation. But they took a disturbing turn in 1992. June 3rd, 1992. He hasn't come in 5 days. I can hear something on the other side of the door. Something fell, something heavy. I'm so thirsty. June 8th, 1992. The smell is terrible. I think he's dead. I think he's been dead for days, but I can still hear him breathing. June 10th, 1992. I tried to stop broadcasting tonight. The door started shaking. His voice came through the intercom. Read the numbers, Jennifer. Read them perfectly. But he's dead. I know he's dead. I can smell him rotting. June 15th, 1992. I understand now. It doesn't matter if he's alive. The station won't let me stop. The final entry, dated December 23rd, 1997, read, I died today. I know I did. I felt it. My heart stopped, but I'm still here, still broadcasting. I'll be here forever. The station won't let me leave. If you find this, please destroy this place. Burn it down. Don't let anyone else get trapped. The police searched the entire building. In the station manager's office, they found a skeleton in the desk chair, still wearing the remains of a security uniform. Dental records identified him as Thomas Vickers, the station's night manager, in 1987. He died of a heart attack, likely in early June 1992. The coroner estimated he'd been dead for 16 years. In his desk was a letter addressed to Whom Concern, dated March 14, 1987. I know what I've done is unforgivable, but they're listening. They've always been listening. The numbers have to be read. Every night, 2:47 a.m., 17 minutes. If they're not read, they'll come through. I've seen what's on the other side of the signal. Jennifer is the only one who can do it. Her voice is pure. They accept her voice. If she stops, if anyone interrupts the broadcast, they'll come through the static. God forgive me. The FCC shut down all equipment and sealed the building. The broadcast should have stopped. It didn't. Truckers still report picking up the signal. Every night, 2:47 a.m., Channel 19, a woman's voice reading numbers. The voice sounds more desperate now, more distant, like it's coming from very far away. But that's not what made Robert Chen quit the FCC. On August 20th, 2008, the night after they discovered the room, Chen received a phone call at 2:47 a.m. He didn't recognize the number. When he answered, there was static. Then Jennifer Hollis's voice, 74329-88156-22904. Chen approaches the microphone. Hello? Who's there? The voice stops mid-number. 5 seconds of silence. Then, Agent Chen, thank you for finding me, but you have to go back. Go back where? The station, the equipment. You turned it all off. Yes, You can't turn it off. If the broadcast stops, they come through. Vickers was right. I have to keep reading. I have to keep them on the other side. What do you mean? Who comes through? Static. Then distant, like she was pulling the phone away. Oh God, they're here. The signal dropped. They're coming through the line went dead. At 2:52 a.m., the Millbrook Police Department received 17 emergency calls, residents reporting screaming from the old radio station. When police arrived, the building was dark and quiet, but every piece of equipment was on again, transmitting. The broadcast has continued every night. The FCC has given up trying to stop it. They've classified it as an unresolved interference issue and closed the case. But Chen kept investigating on his own. He discovered something in the FCC archives. KMLB had been built in 1952 on the site of the old Millbrook Asylum. The asylum had burned down in 1951. 43 patients died in the fire, trapped in the sealed ward of the building. The broadcast booth at KMLB was built directly over the asylum's isolation cells. In 2015, Chen went back to the station one last time. He broke in at 2:45 a.m. and sat in the broadcast booth with a recorder. At 2:47, the broadcast began, Jennifer's voice still reading her numbers. He spoke into the microphone. Jennifer, if you can hear me, I need to know what happens if the numbers stop. The broadcast continued, but at the end of the 17 minutes, after the usual static, there was a response. They get out, Agent Chen, all 43 of them, and they're very, very hungry. I've kept them fed for 28 years, fed them static and numbers and the sound of my voice, but they're still hungry. They'll always be hungry. What do they want? More voices, more people to read the numbers, more people to trap. The station is growing, Agent Chen. Can't you feel it? Every night it gets